it's right above water, right? A little chlorine. Yeah.
Little of both.
Yeah.
About 50-50.
Right. You see, I moved to Grafton, Vermont in 1958. We left Grafton because I got a very good job up Lyndonville, Vermont. But we never left Vermont. So we always had that drilled water.
All right. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, quite welcome. Yeah.
All right. Would you state your name and your rank in the military, what branch, etc., just for the record before we start? Yeah.
My name is J.H. Karpin. My rank, when I retired from the Air, I never, by the way, I want to tell you this, I never received a discharge. All I ever got, both from the Army and the Air Force, was a separation from service. They called me back for Korea. They called me back for Vietnam because I was an expert on F-105 Republic Aviation aircraft. And we were having real trouble with bomb bay doors. It was a single seat fighter that carried a nuclear weapon. I wound up first lieutenant. Captaincy was following me right along. If I'd stayed in, and I didn't because of a beautiful girl who said, I won't marry you if you're flying the P-80 jets, because some good guys were getting killed. I was a bombardier navigator through training at Childress, Texas. And for the most part, I was bombardier in the 8th Air Force. You want me to start just from the beginning and go through what happened?
No, I'd rather ask you questions.
Okay.
And if you say, hey, wait a minute, you should know this,
Okay.
you go ahead. It's better if it isn't a monologue, I think, right, G? Yeah.
Okay.
You remember Pearl Harbor?
Oh, of course, yeah.
How old, where were you?
17. I was babysitting for my sister and my brother. My parents were at a wedding, and I was sitting there doing my homework. And I kept hearing these calls on the radio about the bombing in Hawaii, and we thought that was like a story they were telling, And then finally I realized, I said, wait a minute, this has been going on and on and on. Something else, something different. And
By a story, do you mean like maybe the War of the Worlds from a
Yeah.
You thought it was something like that,
Yeah.
Orson Welles?
Orson Welles program, right?
Okay.
And we'd heard that, So
You heard Orson Welles, it was 1938.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, oh yeah.
So you'd been 14 years old.
Right. Well, anyway, a friend came in. We were supposed to just do homework together. And he said, did you hear Pearl Harbor's been bombed? I said, I guess I heard on the radio, but I'm so surprised that's actually happened.
Did you run right down to the recruitment center and sign up, or were you drafted? How'd that work?
No, I didn't want to be drafted. I hated mud, and I wasn't a great swimmer, so I didn't want to be in the Marines or the Navy. So I went down to, I don't remember the number, but it was on Whitehall Street in New York City. That was where they were doing all the recruiting for the Army Air Corps. So I walk in there, and the sergeant looks at me and he said, what do you want? And I said, I want to volunteer for duty with the, I want to fly. And he kind of snickered. He said, how old are you? And I said, 17. And he said, do you have 2 years of college? I said, no. And he said, that's a requirement. I said, oh, gee whiz, I don't know. There's no other way I can get in? He said, sure, we can give you a test. You want to have the test? I said, yes, I do. He said, okay. And he gave me a date to come back. And he said, by the way, we'll weigh you then and do your physical if you pass the written exam. I came back, I don't know how it was. I knew I was underweight. There was no two ways. They had a 150-pound limit, the low range. And I was only about 148. And I know stripped I was 148. So one of my friends, that's the same guy that we talked about on Pearl Harbor Day, he said, go eat a bunch of bananas before you go there. And that'll give you a couple of pounds. Believe it, eat 2 pounds of bananas. Well, I did. And I just barely, my scale was going like that, 150 pounds. And so they said, okay, now go out, have some lunch, and come back, and then we'll have you do the written test. I did the written test, and then the sergeant kept walking by, and he would snicker, you know. And so they grade you right away. They have a mask that they put over to see what you circled, you know, and right up. And he looked at it twice. I got an 89. And a lot of it was college math. And to be totally honest with you, I guessed at half of it. You know, I have to admit it. And so I passed. And they couldn't believe it. They said, we can't take you yet, you're 17. When you're 18, let us know. I said, June 23rd, I'll be 18. And he said, okay, we would be out of school. I said, yeah, that's the day I graduate high school. And he said, okay. He said, if you come back the next day afterwards, okay. Then they called me up and they said, you're in the Army Air Corps, but we can't handle you for a couple of days, so stay home. And they didn't call me back to about sometime in September when I actually went in. We all went into a bunch of guys I knew actually from town, and older guys from college, and they sent us from there to that island out in the Army had a base there. And then they took us to...
Is it Guam?
Huh?
Guam?
No, the island in the, New York Harbor there.
Oh.
Governor's Island.
Governor's Island,
Yeah.
yeah.
They put a whole
I
bunch
thought you
of us-
meant, yeah.
Yeah. And then they shipped us down to Nashville, Tennessee. By a whole bunch of us in terrible conditions. The barracks that I was in, we all got measles. A month later, we all got spinal meningitis. There were 32 people in that barracks, 30 died. I survived, and one other guy in the bunk next to me, and we don't know why we too survived, but we did. I had spinal meningitis, okay. The flight surgeon called the two of us in, and he said, we are going to discharge you guys, you can't fly. And I said, I'm not going home. I said, I got to find something else to do then. They're going to take me in the regular Army. He said, I can't do that. He said, well, we're going to send you home, then re-enlist. I was infuriated. And I was just wild enough and crazy enough that I didn't give a damn. I turned around and I looked, I found a scalpel, and I said, you're dead. And he looked at me and said, you'll kill me, won't you? And I said, he called me all kinds of names. I can't repeat for this. He said, all right, put the knife down. I'm going to give you 90 days. I'm going to assign you to garbage detail. I'm going to assign you to guard duty. I'm going to assign you to latrine duty. And you're going to be damn sorry you said you wanted to stay in this Air Corps. And calisthenics twice a day. I did it. I came back and he called me 90 days on the other guy failed. He was ahead of me. I go, oh, Jesus. And so he called me in and he said, okay, here, we're going to go through everything. And he did all the vitals and everything. And then he said, the last thing, bend down and touch your toes. I said, I can't. And he said, bend down and touch your toes. So I bent down as far as I could, and he said, you failed. I grabbed the same scalpel, and it's, you're dead.
You're a hard man.
Yeah. And so he said, all right. He said, but one thing, I'm going to make sure on your paperwork, you're disqualified as a pilot. He said, because pilots have to do that kind of exercises, and you can't. He said, you can take the test as a bombardier and a navigator. And they had these formal tests that you had to take. I mean, so they shipped me to San Antonio. And that's where the big classrooms were at that time. And so I went through And the big thing is, I amazed them on two things. Was what do they call it when you can line something up real good, and they give you the same test for your eyes and the motor being right. You know, being able to align. I mean, they had these two things on strings, and they want you to line them up dead nuts. You know, and most guys would have them like 3 or 4 inches apart, and mine was right dead. He said, "You're a bombardier." And then the navigation. Actually, I'll tell you the honest truth. I failed the math after passing Whitehall Street. I failed the math for navigator, and doesn't matter. Go ahead, keep going. So I did. They shipped me and a bunch of us to a brand new school in Childress, Texas. Now we were aviation cadets. Okay, we were lower than a private. You have no rights whatsoever. All right, and we got paid $7 a month or something like that, but we didn't have any rank whatsoever. We were aviation cadets, and this was up at Childress, Texas, way up in the Panhandle. The famous thing about Childress is they have more dust storms than any other place in the whole world. So anyway, I trained as a bombardier navigator. Passed everything. In fact, I did very well. Most of the guys that came out of that school were warrant officers, which is 1 grade above a sergeant. You're not a commissioned officer, but about 10 of us got commissions, and there it is.
Oh goodness! Yeah.
United
Get
States.
a picture of that.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well done.
So anyway. Then we were sent home for a couple, 3 days, and we went back, and they sent me to Salt Lake City. That was a distribution center for pilots, and well, co-pilots, of course, and bombardiers and navigators, and we would join up then with our gunners and our radio man and our crew chief, all right? And so I got sent to Biggs Field, El Paso, Texas. I got there, I got out of the train, I said, uh-oh, this is a mistake. I had been promised, and see, the reason we were bombardier navigators was because in the twin-engine planes, the B-25, B-26s, A-20s, there was no room for a bombardier and a navigator in the nose. Okay, so they wanted guys that were trained that could do both. I could do the navigation, get to the target, bomb it, and get you back home again. All right, they were losing more planes because they couldn't find their way home. You know, but I get to this field, and it's B-24, 4-engine group. I said, oh boy, big mistake. I don't want to go on those damn things, you know. So, the name of the group was the 493rd. It was 493rd Bomb Group. And so I immediately go to headquarters, and I want to see the colonel here. And who the hell are you, you know? I said, I'm in the wrong place. I'm a bombardier. I'm a bombardier navigator, and I'm not supposed to fly in these planes because there's room for a bombardier and a navigator, and it's a big mistake. Oh, you'd like to see the colonel? Just a minute. So anyway, they showed me into his office. They said, what's your problem, Lieutenant? I'm misassigned, sir. I'm supposed to be in a twin-engine group, and these are all 4-engine B-24s. Oh, okay. He said, you can call me Butch Hellcat. It was Hellgren or something like that. It'll come to me in a minute. He said, I really feel sorry for you, Lieutenant. Now get your skinny ass out of here and go find your barracks. You're assigned to crew number so-and-so.
Wow.
And he meant it, boy. And he was our group commander. I didn't get out of that group, of course. And another one of my lucky, I survived spinal meningitis. Here's another one for you. My pilot, co-pilot, navigator, myself, we were all in one room in a barracks. The navigator, Tommy Walker, was from El Paso, and he was engaged, and he wanted to throw a party for all the crews in our squadron. There were 12 planes in a squadron, and so a few really great, nice party downtown in El Paso. I don't know what happened and why, but the co-pilot, Art Carney, and I, Jay Karpin, both got sick as anything, whether it was a virus or food or whatever. So we couldn't go with Walker, and I don't remember his name now, first name. It was Tommy Walker. The other one, the pilot, I don't remember his name. They left in the pilot's car, and they ran right in front of a train. And Tommy Walker got killed right there. Now, if we had been in that car, would we have gotten killed too? Who knows, right? The pilot, a guy named Jim Barton, I don't remember now, was crippled for life, and he was out. I bumped into him once in New York City, and he was saying, "You guys were lucky." He said, "I was a lousy pilot." Anyways, so I got back up to Salt Lake City to get reassigned because the crew was gone, all right? And then they sent me back right to the 493rd Bomb Group to a pilot named Don Hogan. And the navigator was, oh Jesus, I can't remember his name right off, but he was, Don was a mortuary guy. The co-pilot, Art Carney, had been a Connecticut state trooper. The navigator had been a New York City cop. And I was a student. I didn't have a job, never had a job. All right. So anyway, Don was a fantastic pilot. But he said, "You know, I never flew one of these things." I said, "What?" He said, "I never flew a B-24. I only flew B-17s." And he said, "I've trained on a B-17s. Here we are, guys." You know, so 24 was easier to take off and land because it had the tricycle gear, whereas the 17 had the tail dragger. And you had to be really good and get that thing up there and not let it waver around to take off. And coming down landing, you had to stall that airplane. It had to be dead nuts when it hit the ground. Completely stalled, or you flew right into the ground. A lot of guys got killed that way. They weren't stalled any. They hit that hard and the landing gear collapsed.
It's incredible.
Yeah, we lost. You know, there's a lot of things people don't know about what happened in training. You know, we lost guys in head-on collisions in training. We lost guys where engines that failed on takeoff. You know, training was really, really rough, and we had the worst airplanes. Just the junk that was left. The good stuff was going overseas. That there were. We had inexperienced pilots, really. We had some real old twin-engine bombers that were using for training airplanes. We never dropped anything larger than a 100-pound bomb. I mean, it was just, to me, it was really cruel the way they did. I mean, we were using equipment that was so bad.
And you were the guy who was eyeing the targets and calling when the bomb would drop, etc. Were you good at it?
We had 3 bomb sites that we trained on. Mm-hmm. Of course, the best was the Norden, and I'll explain how that worked. Then there was a Sperry, which the Norden went into all the B-17s. The Sperry went into B-24s. And then they had a visual sight, what they called it. It was something they borrowed from the British, and where it was an angle thing that you'd set up, and it was just, and then you try to toggle the bombs out, and you'd miss the target by a half a mile. You know, one of those things, right? The Norden was very accurate if you used it right, and there was one big advantage of the Norden. And I'll explain that right off, and then I'll get into it and explain. With the Norden bomb sight, you locked the bomb sight to the automatic pilot. The bombardier flew the airplane during the whole bombing run. The pilot was hands off, he couldn't touch anything. He couldn't anyway, he was locked out. They wanted to make sure they didn't get, because sometimes we would make a violent move, or oh look, this crosshair's going this way, can we get it back? And you know, so we'd crank it into the head, bring that crosshairs back, and the pilot would get scared. Something happened to my airplane, you know. But we flew the plane during the whole bomb run. Once the navigator said IP, initial point, bang, we locked it on. And that was the end of the pilot's job until I said, bombs away. Then I had to unlock it real quick. And there were some problems with that because sometimes the bombardier got killed. And now has nobody there, and they can't get him off. You get to the lever to unlock.
Can you give me a circumstance where a bombardier would get killed or did get killed?
Well, fighters come in and then they kill you right there. You know, you hit the B-24, the new one, you were safer, but they only had the Sperry, and the Sperry didn't lock you in. You know, it was a different setup.
So what protected you when you were up there? You've got combat aircraft around you, right?
All you've got in front of you is plexiglass.
That's it?
Yeah. Whole nose of a B-17 was plexiglass. Nothing else.
But weren't there combat aircraft up there in case you were confronted by combat aircraft?
You actually had to be a gunner too. I had two 50 caliber Brownings under my seat that I had to fire when fighters came straight in.
So if a Messerschmitt or a Zero came after you during the war, you had to take it on yourself?
Yeah.
You didn't
Well,
have
the
any...
pilot would usually radio. You know, we wore a radio all the time, of course, and he would say like, you know, bandits 12 high, and that meant there were fighters coming head on, 12 o'clock high, or he might say 6 low, or give you clock 9.
Now you don't have a chance though. The cumbersome nature of your airplane.
I never got shot. I never got wounded that way. Never got wounded.
But some did and got killed.
This glass and this glass were bulletproof. So they had to come, that's why they came high. And they know if they dove in, they could kill the bombardier that way. They would dive right in and then bank off and climb again. And they killed a lot of bombardiers, right? In fact, there was a saying, pilots would land and they would say, clean out the guts and the nose and give me a new bombardier.
Now I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but where did that happen? Where were you when those kinds of things were happening? This well after your training, and you've been shipped over to be part of the war.
We finished our training.
Yeah.
And then they bused us all to Lincoln, Nebraska. And we picked up brand new B-24s right out of the Ford plant. Ford was building them.
Ford was building the
B-24s. The B-24s, yeah. Well, Consolidated was their airplane, but they couldn't keep up with the production needs, so Ford stopped their line, one of the lines, I don't know which plant, and they were building the B-24s. And ours had big plaques and built by Ford. And we flew those from Lincoln, Nebraska to Valley, Wales.
This is your first time in a brand new B-24, so how much different from those that you were training with?
The nose was completely different, and that was the main thing. The nose had a turret with a gunner in it above my head, and I was underneath him, and then my bomb glasses were right underneath his seat. Okay, so I had to operate the bomb sight on my knees. That was the only way you could do it.
So the total crew in this B-24 is how
10
many?
guys.
10.
Right, yeah, right. Well, on the B-24 with the new nose, 11. Yeah.
Okay. Because of the...
They had the extra turret.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So you flew to Wales?
Well, let me explain that trip to you. Remember now, what do we got for navigation? Nothing. In the States, yes, you had what we call AN. And that was what everybody flew that had a radio. They would send a beam out. I'm giving you some history here. Well, see, I started flying when I was about 15 years old. And I learned a lot of things. I could fly. I could get a private license when I was 15. I was that capable of flying. To go from one place to another, they would project out beams, and they would go out about maybe 150 miles. On the left side was the Morse code A, dit-da, dit-da, dit-da. On the right side was N, dash dot, dash dot, dash dot. Now you knew, so okay, I'm reading dash dot. I'm to the right of my course. So you fly back in and you hear steady buzz. But that went only to Dalmaine. So we flew these planes into Dalmaine, all right? Now we take off for Newfoundland. No radio aids. So we flew some by pilotage. Okay, that way the pilotage is going by the ground. Oh look, there's a river, there's a road, there's a bridge, there's a railroad track. That's pilotage. That's how you fly pilotage. But once we left the States, nothing. So how do you think we flew? How do you think we navigated? Celestial.
I was just going to say, that's all you
We
had.
flew at night. Yeah. We flew from Balmain to Newfoundland, and then I forget the next stop was further up Labrador, and then the next one was Iceland.
I was just going to say Iceland, and then the next one is probably, depending upon how far north you are, maybe the coast of Scotland.
Yeah.
And then you came down.
Well, they had us one coming to Wales.
Mhm.
What happened was when we get to Reykjavik, Iceland, we were downloaded for some minor modifications, and it started to snow, and it snowed, and it snowed, and then it went to about 25 below zero, and the damn airplanes wouldn't start. And so finally they had an idea.
So you landed in Reykjavik.
Or Reykjavik, Iceland.
You must have had communication with the ground, radio. Otherwise, how would you know that's Reykjavik?
No, it wasn't mine. We didn't understand them anyway. They talk Icelandic.
This sounds a little like the Keystone Cops here.
Yeah, oh, it was ridiculous. Oh, some of the things
You might never have made it.
No.
Did you fly
We were damn
cruise?
lucky. Absolutely amazing that we actually got there.
That's beyond me.
Between the navigator and I, we could go to Celestial, and you take that trip, the last one from Newfoundland to Iceland, that's a long ride, and from Iceland to Valley, Wales. So he would do it first, and then he would bunk down and catch a nap, and then I would do it for an hour or two or three, and then he would take over again. And that's how we got there. And we had planes behind us. We were squadron leader because Don Hogan was such a good pilot. All right, so we had 11 airplanes following us. And all they're following is just the exhaust and
So they
tail
don't see
lights.
you visually.
No.
If they lost you visually,
Oh, they were dead nuts.
forget it.
They were crazy. They were gone.
Yeah. That's incredible.
They had a deputy navigator. We had a lead and then a right deputy and a left deputy. All right. So you had actually 3 out of the squadron of 12 that were capable. So hopefully they wouldn't lose all 3 of us. Pardon.
That's incredible. I can't.
Yeah.
That's very primitive here.
Oh, of course it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that with any group that was flying over at that time?
Yeah.
Same way?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Pretty much.
Could the enemy
They eventually established more radio aids. They were getting better at it, And a lot of them flew down into the Azores and went that way, which was a better route. We went the northern route, which was terrible.
Shorter though.
Yeah, but much shorter. Oh, much shorter. Yeah. Hundreds of miles, thousands of miles probably shorter.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, as we neared Valley and then the Wales.
Tell me, how did you know it was Wales that you'd come to? Maybe it was the coast of Ireland or.
Well, we knew pretty well because of the navigation that we'd done the night before. We're flying in that night. Okay. We knew that by then we were getting some radio. Okay, we had a radio contact. We had radio
In
contact
English.
with the British.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Not American English, but English
Yeah.
English. Yeah.
Yeah. So they told us to land at Valley, Wales. I'm saying, we're not going to be in the war, I guess, We're out here. And the reason our base wasn't ready.
Give me a timetable here. Wintertime it must be because of the snow.
Yeah, well, it wasn't too bad when we got to Wales.
1942, late fall, early winter, 1942.
44.
44.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's what I wanted to know. All right.
Yeah, we flew into Valley, Wales about 1st of April, 44.
So planning for D-Day, for example, is
June 6, 44.
right, well underway. It's April of 40.
No.
No.
No, I flew my first mission D-Day.
But I mean the planning for what
Oh,
would
yeah.
become D-Day is well underway by April
Oh yeah.
1944.
Yeah.
But yeah, you okay?
Yeah.
Your first mission,
The D-Day. Yeah.
June the 6th, 1944.
You got it.
Is there more between your landing in Wales to that, or should we go right there?
Well, we
I
had
have some questions about what you did in Wales.
nothing. We just sat there and waited till our
You
base
didn't
was ready.
continue to train.
Nothing. No, it was more. It was a British base actually.
Yeah, of
And there
course.
was nothing. They didn't. We just lounged around, got drunk, and chased the women and that kind of stuff.
Did you ever
you know.
catch any
What's that?
women? Did
Women.
you catch any?
Yes, yes. Wait, tell you a story about that. You better delete that.
You're gonna get in trouble here.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
so
no, I'm not married.
no,
I mean, I was.
are there any other disclosures here?
The statute of limitations is up.
Yeah, you're okay.
Oh, that.
So where we are? So you're in Wales and you're not doing anything.
No.
Did you have any premonition of what was to come?
No.
Did you know nothing? You're just there.
Yeah. Well, you know, we were going to be bombing Germany. I mean, that's what the 8th Air Force was assigned to do. That was the big target.
But you weren't bombing Germany.
When we weren't there, we were just sitting.
Right. People out of that base were bombing Germany?
No. No, it was more like a British training base.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then they finally radio us and told us that our base was ready. So we flew into a new base at Debich, England.
What's the name of it again?
Debich was the name of the town. It's a very small, D-E-B-A-C-H, Debich.
Okay. What's it near?
Not too far from Ipswich.
Okay.
Most of the bases were close to the North Sea. Yeah, right.
Sure.
Closer to Germany.
Right.
Yeah. So we flew into there. Now we started training with the 8th Air Force. You know who my commanding officer was? I mean, the commanding officer of the whole 8th Air Force?
Let me think. I know mostly Army.
Well, he was Army Air Corps, that's for sure. He was famous.
Well, it's got to be LeMay.
Mark Clark.
Well, Clark was out in the Pacific.
Yeah, right.
You're going to be surprised, I bet.
Oh.
Go ahead, tell me.
Jimmy Doolittle.
Oh, son of a guy.
He was my commanding officer,
What was
and
he
he
doing?
loved me. We had a lot of contact with Jimmy Doolittle direct. I'll explain that to us as we go along.
That's funny. He's known for the raid on Tokyo.
Yeah, he's the one that
Earlier,
took
but
the
now
off
he's-
the carrier with a bunch of B-25s.
Right, but
and
now
bombed
he's in
Tokyo.
Europe.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But by then he'd been promoted. So he was a colonel then. He had been promoted, and he was a light general, lieutenant general, and he was in charge of the whole 8th Air Force.
Okay.
He had 3 bomb wings, about 36 groups. So we trained with them.
Before you go on, are you training with the British as well?
No.
No.
British
They're
flew nights, we flew days.
Okay.
British flew nights, we flew days.
Okay.
No, we trained with another group that had some combat experience. And there was
Americans? Americans?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Another 24 group.
Yeah. History says there were some Polish pilots, for example, who'd gotten out of Poland after the invasion of Poland.
They were mostly fighter pilots.
Okay.
I never saw one that was a bomber pilot.
Okay. All right.
I never heard of one that was a bomber pilot.
Right.
They were good fighter pilots. They had some real good training.
So you were exclusively an American group here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're training now, and it's getting serious.
Yeah.
Are you well aware of what's coming up?
Well, as we were making these training flights, you know, we looked down on the English Channel, and holy Christmas, it was filled. You know, boats after boats after boats. We saw a lot of the DC-3, the one that they used to tow gliders with, the ones that the guys bailed out of on the parachute guys.
101st
Yeah.
Airborne, you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, we saw so many of those planes, mostly parked, dozens and dozens of them in these fields. Now, what in the world? You know, we're selling DC-3s at the radio. had no idea what there was going to be a raid. My pal and I, we were very close friends. He kind of adopted me. He was like, 30 years old, and I and I was 19. And so anyway, we thought for sure they'd go in way up north, maybe up in Norway or someplace where there wasn't any defenses, Nobody thought they'd cross the channel like that direct, attack. We never thought that. So anyway, we got our training, and then one morning, Sergeant comes in and wakes you up, and they always had some nasty words for you. Okay, you. And I'll explain how we bunked, okay? We slept in Nissen huts, and we lived in Nissen huts. They were metal, half, of a barrel.
Saw him in Da Nang, gee.
Yeah, we did.
There were 2 sets of crews of officers in one Nissen hut. So we were in a Nissen hut. Don Hogan's crew, which four commissioned officer, and Jake Latimer's crew. I'll forget his name. He got shot down in his 12th mission. Jake Latimer's crew, those 4 guys. All right. Then in the enlisted men, we had 6 enlisted men on the crew. Gunners and crew chief and radio operator. Those 12 guys slept in another hut. We were kept separate. I thought it was a bad idea, but and the guys really liked me. They because I was young and stupid, and I hung out with guys that weren't commissioned, and I caught heck from it sometimes. But I thought these were nice guys, and a lot of 2 of the gunners were the same age as me, 19. So anyway, the bad part about that was that when they got shot down, Sergeant comes in with 4 boxes. Clean them out. What do you mean? And there's some guy in Graves duty or something? No, you clean out the bombardier's crew, the bunk and everything. And the guy was, the last name was Muzzy, and I said, geez, I knew this guy, and real well. We went to bombardier school together, and it was really tough. And he had gotten married just like when he was 18, because he'd had the same girlfriend like since he was 14 years old. He got married before we went overseas. And this happened to us 4 times. Okay, now I'm going to give you some rough figures.
Hang on.
Approximately.
Another 20 minutes.
Okay.
Approximately 46,000 guys in the 8th Air Force got shot down. 46,000. 26,000 killed in action. The rest were POWs, or if they were lucky, they walked through France and Spain and got out. Most of them didn't. And there's a guy that lives right here near Brattleboro that was a radio operator on a B-17, got shot down on his 12th mission. Yeah. Guy's name is Hamilton.
Yeah, he lives up in Marlboro.
Yeah.
I know him, Dick Hamilton.
Yeah.
Question for you: the military talks in terms of kill ratio.
Yeah.
So if you lost that many, that's a huge number.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Were you doing better than that
Oh yeah.
with the enemy? In other words, if we looked at their statistics, were they losing twice as many, 3 times as many, 3 to 1 for every one you were losing? Do you have any idea?
Well,
of
of
that?
course, there's 2 different groups you're talking about with the Germans. First of all, they were bombing England like crazy, all right? Once our fighter group started coming in, and the British, remember Churchill, the guy that gave all their lives to shoot down Germans. We never saw a German bomber. Because by then they'd invented the V1. The V1 was a rocket airplane, right?
V1, V2.
And yeah, well, we saw both.
Yeah.
But the V1, you'd hear this thing coming, and the engine would cut out, and oh my God, yeah. And they were shooting those over real regular. their fighter losses were much higher than our fighter losses. Yeah, because first of all, we had some real good fighters. The P-47, the Lockheed, the P-51. Of course, once we had that, that was the Germans hardly ever bothered us, except by then they'd already had their first jet. They'd already had their first rocket airplane. The Messerschmitt 262 was a great fighter. And one mission, they shot down 11 out of our 12 planes in the lower squadron.
Ooh. That was in 44?
Yeah. 11 out of 12. Yeah. One crummy pass. We couldn't believe this guy, how fast this guy was shooting. He went way up above us. We saw him, you know, and like a speck, and then he started down, so when he just fell through that squadron, shot down 11 out of 12. Now that's 120 guys.
That's incredible, yeah.
No,
Good thing the
110.
war ended when it ended.
Huh?
It's a good thing that the war ended
Oh
when it
yeah,
ended.
oh yeah.
Well, those rocket scientists, several of them,
they
ended
were
up.
the V2, yeah.
They ended up over here
Brown,
working.
Yeah. He was a brilliant guy.
Werner von Braun and
Yeah,
ended up with NASA.
right. Yeah. So anyway, I flew some of the worst ones, and flew a total of 35.
And where were you flying right now? Where are you? You're leaving from near Ipswich.
The way it started after D-Day is we wanted to eliminate the German power in France.
Did you say after D-Day?
Yeah.
Okay.
We wanted to liberate France. That was the big word. We got to liberate France. So we flew a lot of missions in France where the Germans had strongholds, where they were really locked in. And I explained what I received because of that. Then as France was cleared out pretty well, we started going deeper and deeper into Germany. And now, Doolittle had this thing figured out. There were 4 major air battles. And everybody says, oh, you went up and then you bombed a place, you come back. No. Germany had 7 synthetic plants to manufacture oil. That's a battle. You knock out all 6, 7, and you get a star. But if they get one back in operation, you got to go do it, hit it again.
Yeah. Did you bomb as far east as a place like Ploesti in Eastern Europe? Kind of the Houston, Texas?
No, we never went outside of Germany except once. We went one mission to Czechoslovakia. And I don't even remember the target now. It was minor, but it was something that the Air Force wanted to eliminate. The Army wanted to eliminate for some reason.
Now at D-Day plus however many days it becomes, D-Day plus 10, plus 20, plus 21,
Right.
After a number of days had gone by, were you able to establish landing strips in France that you could fly from there?
No.
You flew all the time from England?
We never flew out of, we always flew out of the same base.
All right, and what was the capacity? I mean, how far could you go? How long could you stay out to get back safely?
Our longest mission was 8 hours.
That's as long as you could go? That was max?
Just about, yeah.
Okay, so you took off at whatever 100 hours. How long to get to the target in France?
Well, in France, oh, not too long at all. It was the deep ones that were bad because
What's a deep one then? Give me
well,
an
the deep one's
example.
an 8-hour mission. 4 hours in and 4 hours out. That's
Right.
about the maximum you
Give
can
me
go.
an example of what your target would be on an 8-hour mission.
Synthetic oil plant.
Where? Located where?
Messerschmitt plant.
Yeah, located
What?
Dusseldorf?
Yeah, we bombed Dusseldorf.
You
yeah.
bombed Dusseldorf?
Bombed Cologne.
Cologne.
Bombed Schweinfurt a number of times. That was a big oil refinery.
Yeah.
And anything that would help the German. Messerschmitt plants. We went after all.
Where were they?
Where? They were pretty deep. And some of them, we had to use armor-piercing bombs because they were on the ground. We dropped armor-piercing bombs.
Yeah. Do you remember where the Messerschmitt plant?
Pretty hard to, yeah. They were pretty deep. They may have even been on the border of Poland. They were pretty deep. The longest mission we could make and have enough fuel to get back, depending on the prevailing wind. I mean, you know, you have a headwind. Was 8 hours. We didn't dare go any longer than that, or we'd run out.
Any contingency plan if you couldn't make it back? Was there a place to land if you couldn't make it back to England?
Well, on the just inside the White Cliffs of Dover, they had an emergency strip. So if you were really, really about out, or you had really, really bad battle damage and they didn't want you back on base, you could land on this thing, okay? It was an emergency. The only other time we thought of landing someplace was after the British had liberated Brussels, and we thought about going into that airport. Of course, we had a lot of battle damage that day, and the pilot had feathered one engine, and he said, I don't know if we're going to make it or not, and they said, get your parachutes on. That was another thing, that was another trick. A lot of people don't realize what, as a bombardier, or navigator, crew chief, tail gunner, ball gunner, we couldn't wear parachutes. All we had on was the harness. And the parachute lay next to me. Okay? Now this airplane gets hit real bad and I try to grab that parachute, hook it on, open the hatch behind me and get out of that airplane. Impossible. Most guys died because they couldn't get their parachute on. They were found dead with their just the harness on. Yeah, and I have a picture of it like that, just with my harness on. Yeah. In fact, it was taken right after my 35th mission. For the most part, now there was one target I have to tell you about. We knew the Germans were right on the verge of manufacturing a nuclear weapon. They had a heavy water plant on the Swiss border. Doolittle came in and he wanted 3 groups to go. Doolittle came in and some of the other guys had come to our base. Now when they're going to show you a mission, all the officers sitting among them, we're driving, smoking and drinking coffee, and on the wall, the map of Europe. And there's a red tape that goes from your base to the target. And when they opened this one, we went, oh my God. It was deep. It was actually on the Swiss border. And Doolittle said, if you bomb the other side of that line, don't come back. Oh. Yeah. It's a violation, it's an act of war against Switzerland, and we'll shoot you at dawn if you do.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. We missed it. We didn't. We hit the target. Oh man, never saw an explosion like that. It was fantastic. Yeah, right. But and then that was another one. We used armor-piercing bombs, like the Navy used, to go through armor decks. It was. There were a couple of missions that he personally was the what do you call it, a director, and said, "Here's your problem, boys."
Now, you can look back on all this with some humor now, because it's a long time ago. But at the time, how was the morale among the men that you knew?
We were really scared. I mean, when you think about it, you know, if you do your job and one bomb goes into another country, you're going to get shot for doing it. You know? But anyway, he wasn't all bad, really. Still was a funny guy. And he called me and 12 other bombardiers up to London. And I didn't know what it was all about. Gee whiz. He said, we've got a new bombing method. We want you guys to learn it. We called it Mickey, but it was, we could bomb through clouds. Okay. The name will come to me in a minute. And we called it Mickey because the machine had a screen on it and had big, big, big antennas on each side. Looked like Mickey Mouse. It was called Pathfinder. The British had invented it because they were bombing at night and it was really good for them. Okay? And then he decided that he would take 4 out of each of his wings and have us lead as Pathfinder bombardiers. So it was a big, big deal for me, and that's why I got first lieutenant. I was promoted from second to first lieutenant because I was a Pathfinder bombardier. All right, and so we used it probably 4 times, and that's all. Most of the time, they wanted you to bomb visually. They wanted to see the target. You know, it was a bit, but the Pathfinder was probably 40% accurate. You know, I saw pictures afterwards of the bombing, and we've gotten some bombs on there, but not a lot.
Can you give me an example of a mission you were on where maybe the weather interfered? The wind was very high and your bombs were blown well off target, and essentially maybe you went out there.
Bomb sight allowed for the wind.
It does.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, we always had 2 more targets of opportunity. Okay, so we couldn't see our major target. We could radio back to 8th Air Force and said, we're going to, instead of going to Berlin, we're going to go to Stuttgart, or you know, whatever, and then they would give us the okay. You had to get the okay from 8th Air Force to do it. And there were a few times that we did that, where they hadn't figured real well, and we hadn't had Pathfinder, and the target was obscured. We didn't see it. We knew where it was, but we couldn't see it. Another thing is, the Germans were masters at camouflage. There were plants that they changed the roof into a pond or into a gardens or anything, and we looked through the bombs like, whoa, wait a minute, somebody may, hey, navigator, what? You missed this target. No, that's it. They just camouflaged it. And lots of times the guys wouldn't drop their bombs in different groups because they couldn't find the target. You know, I only carried the bombs back once, only once, and I couldn't find any. There were 3 targets, couldn't find them. The navigator couldn't find them. We all looked, and nobody could find them. Then.
Any repercussion when you came back fully loaded, like, hey?
Yeah, we don't like that. It wasn't the best way to do it, but you know, we couldn't. And sometimes there was 3 times we dropped the bombs in the English Channel. Now, they weren't missions. You had to fly 5+ hours from takeoff to touchdown, or it wasn't a mission and you didn't get credit for it. You know how many times that happened to us?
Yeah, well, if 8 hours is your max, probably quite often. Especially early on after D-Day.
Yeah.
When the flight distance was not that long.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first target you bombed in France?
The first time it hit France?
Your first missions into France itself?
It was D-Day.
All right, and what did you bomb on D-Day?
That was one of those missions where all we were after were railroad crossings, truck terminals, to prevent more troops from coming up and interfering with our landings. That was the simplest, lowest mission that we ever made. Okay, we ran around 5,000 feet, which was nothing for us. We usually ran around 25,000. Didn't need oxygen. In fact, I didn't even use the bomb sight. I toggled the bombs out. I just saw the targets, took it out, told the navigator, you know, he would keep track of hits. Okay, and I bombed probably 5 railroad terminals and, you know, a few of those things. And what happened was that the U.S. landing troops were supposed to set up fires for us so we wouldn't bomb on the wrong side. And the wind blew it all down there, and a lot of guys got killed because we thought that there's the fire line, and that wasn't the fire line, and we were bombing on, and they were really a mess. Yeah.
Did you use the terminology friendly fire in those days?
Yeah. Well, we didn't call it that.
I know that's Vietnam, but
we call it another dirty word.
what is it, if I may ask?
The other bastards.
Okay.
Yeah, the other bastards are shooting at us. Okay. Now, I can't tell you where I flew these missions, but I flew 4 secret missions for Mr. Doolittle. I can't tell you what I did.
During World War II?
I can't tell you where we went.
That can't still be classified.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard that they were declassified.
Have you looked it up to find out? It must be.
There's no record of them. Now let me explain what he did for a
There has
secret
to be
mission.
a record someplace.
Well, let me tell you what he did, all right? He would take a B-17 and he would strip it. No guns. No gunners. No radio man. No tail gunner. No ball gunner. A pilot, a co-pilot, a navigator, and a bombardier. Stripped of your rank. You're picked up by a Jeep like 4 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't know your name, and you don't know the other 3, 4 crew members. You don't know.
You really didn't.
If you're
know.
Bill,
Yeah,
you might be called Jack.
yeah. But I mean, you didn't recognize any of the other men.
Didn't recognize the field. Didn't know
must
where
have-
I was.
This must have been under the auspices of the OSS then.
Whatever, I have no ideas. And I'll just tell you one mission. When I got to the target,
Flown from England still, out of
Yeah.
near Ipswich.
when I got to the target, when I picked up the target in the bomb site, I saw white circles and white stars on all the vehicles. What do you think that was? It was an American base.
Our own?
Yeah.
You're bombing an American base?
That's what our orders were.
And you can't tell me where.
No.
Certainly,
No.
this is during World War II.
Yes. Right. And if anybody asks me, I'll deny it. I didn't do any of that mission. I don't know anything about it. There's no record. There was never a record. Because the people they wanted to kill, they didn't want the rest of the world to know they wanted to kill them.
They were Americans in all likelihood?
One was. Or it was a lease. I don't know. Maybe these were leased to somebody. And we don't know who were there.
Well,
We don't know
the
anything
British
about it.
were the beneficiary of Lend-Lease, so
Yeah.
they certainly weren't Germans, were they? Or
No.
Was that part of their design?
I don't think so. I don't know. It was pretty deep. It was about as far in as Americans had advanced.
Do you remember more or less the date?
It was intermixed with my regular missions.
Toward the end of the war?
About the 25th, I was doing a few. I did 4 of them.
25th of...
My 25th mission.
Oh,
I did maybe one after the 25th and one after the 28th and
do
one.
you have a rough date for your 25th mission? Month anyway? Month and year?
Oh, that would be probably August of 44.
Okay.
So anyway, I didn't tell you that.
Well,
Anyway, so
and there were 4 of those. There were 4 of those missions.
yeah, right. There's no record. I've been to the Pentagon. There's no record of those missions.
Yeah. I wonder if under the Freedom of Information Act you might be able to unearth something today.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Might be quite a
I don't
project.
think there's any record whatsoever.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the bomb load was. I didn't know anything about that except there's the target. The navigator will get you there.
And Doolittle came to you and your crew personally to tell you about this?
He called me into London, and he said, "This is going to happen to you." He said, "There'll be a night. The guy will come in. He'll wake you up. They get dressed. All right. Don't put on your rank. Don't put on anything that identifies you. You know, we had these jackets with J. Karpin on them, and A2 jackets. You know, we were big wigs. You know, these army leather jackets. You know, don't wear that.
You know the
Just wear
reason,
flying clothes.
don't you?
Well, they were low level too. They were pretty low.
Yeah.
You know, we were oxygen.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. Real quick, get in, drop the bombs, get the hell out.
Plausible deniability. if you were shot down or in any way implicated,
No identifying.
they would have denied your existence. They don't know who
That's
you
right.
are. They don't know what you're doing.
That's right.
You're in an
And we couldn't
unmarked
tell
airplane.
anybody what we did.
Mhm.
No.
And no credit for that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, wow.
No, that wasn't a mission.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What mission? There's no missions.
That happened to Major Anderson on a U-2 flight over Cuba.
What's that?
That happened to Major Anderson, who was shot down in a U-2
Yeah,
over Cuba.
yeah.
I was in Cuba in
Oh, you were,
2009, and
Huh.
quite by accident ran into the wreckage of his U-2 airplane. It's in Havana. Yeah,
Huh. Oh, interesting.
yeah. It says U.S. Air Force, USAF on the
Oh, yeah.
U-2
Yeah.
Lockheed Corp.
So, came back. Well, I was pretty highly decorated, and I just got another one, whether you know about it or not. When I finished up, I had received the Air Medal 5 times.
Could you explain to people who might not know what is the Air Medal?
The Air Medal was at that particular time, was the first award that you would get from the U.S. Army Air Force as a recognition of doing something outstanding. Wasn't a big deal. We got our first one after 5 missions. They thought if you flew 5, that was pretty good. All right, and then later on they kept advancing, and I wound up with 5 Air Medals. All right.
So that's 25 very successful missions.
Well, they stopped doing it
With
later
5s.
on, yeah.
Just 5 now.
So I got 5. I don't know. You can't really. After the first 5, we got the Air Medal. We don't know why we got it after that. On one mission, we did some really outstanding bombing, and the whole crew was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross.
Was that because of the importance of the target?
Yes, yes, and then the dangers going to that target, which was heavily, very heavily, and that one didn't come from Doolittle. It came from one of his subordinates, but it says right on it that the award was for the outstanding use of my bomb sight. One of those.
So
Dead nuts.
could you tell people how does that work? Or you get contacted by Washington, D.C.? Do they
No.
take you down to Washington and award you, or they come to your home?
This was a war, during the war. They didn't want you near Washington.
Okay, I thought you said just recently you had received something.
Oh, well, what
Not
happened?
one of these specifically.
Yeah, what happened was a guy that lived in Bellows Falls, and we knew through the family, became a major general in the Army. And he had heard about my record. And I was living in Grafton at the time. And he thought it was so outstanding, he couldn't believe it. And so he wanted me to come to Washington, and I did. And then one thing he said, by the way, he said, I've seen you march in the Grafton Parade. You can wear your whole uniform, can't you? And I said, yeah, I still can. And he said, well, we'd like you to wear your uniform when you come. He said, because, you know, you're Army Air Corps, not Air Force, you know. So anyway,
I was going to ask you about that too, but I think you just answered it.
Yeah.
Competition between the Air Force and the
yeah.
Army Air
Yeah,
Corps.
right.
Yeah.
So I got down ahead, and then we had this guy who was going to escort us all around. He said, now this is going to take you about an hour. He said, you will go through the Air Force, and he said, you'll go into the Secretary of the Air Force and his office, and this woman who was ahead of him, and, you know, Secretary of this and that. And I said, okay. We were there for 7 hours.
Really?
I had lunch with the Secretary of War.
Wow. Secretary of Defense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget the name now, but and all the
Was it Panetta?
secretaries, and now they take you into the Secretary of the Air Force's office. God, you wouldn't believe the pomp and circumstances. You sit at the desk. You sit at the desk, you're going to have 2 wishes. Huh? You're going to have 2 wishes. What do you mean? What would you wish for if you were, you know, able to do that. Well, I don't want to take it. What do you mean? And he said, well, what would you have a... They said, well, there was a nice colonel lady in here, and she told me that she'd been a colonel for like 8 years. I want her promoted to a one-star general. He looked at me and said, you can do that. I said, do you want to? He said, yeah, and I tell her I want to have lunch with her.
You're a womanizer.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, right. So I have a girlfriend, yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Can she keep up with you?
Not really. Yeah, she's pretty. Anyways, so you have a second wish. Oh yeah? Okay. I said, this one's for Vermont. He said, oh, Vermont? I said, I want you to bring the F-22s to Burlington. And he looked at me and he said, what? He said, that's a big order. And I said, yeah, but you guys can do it. You can just tell that damn airport up there, we're going to bring these in, whether people like it or not. We need that airplane up there. We need that income. That's the big thing. We need all the pilots and mechanics and weather people and all that. We need that Air Force base. Bring the F-22s in.
So are you in contact with Richard Hamilton?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I got my pilot's license back through his son-in-law, and that's how I heard about him.
You have your pilot's license now?
Yeah. I need a new cross-country endorsement on it. I mean, I can fly around here, but I can't go, 200 miles away until I get.
Do you fly here?
Huh?
Do you fly?
Yeah, I
around
fly.
here? Out of
Yeah.
Keene?
No, out of Orange, Mass, where he flies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's still flying too?
Huh?
He?
Not Richard, his
Oh.
son-in-law.
Oh, right.
His son-in-law is a fantastic pilot. He can fly anything. Right up the commercial, heavy commercial.
So did the female officer get her promotion to one-star general?
Yeah,
did.
one star. She
Yeah.
got her promotion.
One star.
Yeah,
And the lunch?
of course. You know where she took me? She said that you got to go with me. And she took me to Subway.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Well, in the Pentagon, they have a dozen restaurants. I mean, it's just like a city.
Yeah.
And she said, I don't know about you, but I like Subway, and that's all you're going to get. You're only a lieutenant, first lieutenant.
There's a subway stop in the Washington, D.C. metro called
Yeah.
Pentagon City.
Yeah,
But I think it's a shopping mall
yeah,
when you get off there.
right.
Mm.
So anyway, yeah, I had quite a time, and a lot of the guys were amazed at what we did. So few people know what the 8th Air Force went through, because, I mean, yeah, okay, the newspapers, and I've seen some of the newspapers, 60 bombers shot down.
Numbers.
That's 600 guys dying in one mission,
Yeah.
or prisoner of war, something, but not go back home again.
Have you met anybody who was taken POW? I assume that would be somebody who did parachute out.
That was Richard.
Right. And landed in enemy territory.
Right.
And ended up in a German POW
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah.
Uh,
They did. I was so lucky. I was more scared of that, I think, than I was of getting killed.
have they shared any of their experiences as
Most of them you
POWs?
can't pump. They don't want to even talk about it.
Mhm.
The food was so bad, and the treatment was so bad, and the conditions were so bad that a lot of them, just. When I first came home, I know now what they call it was PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, I was wild. I was crazy. You know, I almost killed my mother, and the girl that I married said, "We're going to divorce you. You're an animal." And you know, I mean, I was what you know these old mattresses that had the bindings on the side, the rolls on the side of a mattress. Think about old mattresses. They had these cloth. They were bound that way, where they had the cloth rolls on each side.
Okay.
I woke up one morning and I torn them all off. I mean, I'm not that strong, but I was just showing we had it awful bad, really, you know. And then this one time, what started to cure me. As I said, I almost killed my mother in an incident, and I was drunk. My wife and I were together with my folks for a party, and my father insisted. He says, "Give me your keys. You can't drive home." He says, "You'll kill yourself." So I gave him up. I said, "Okay." So next morning I was pretty sober, and we were driving home. And my wife was crying. She said, "I'm sorry that I married you." What? She said, "I'm sorry I married you." She said, "I think you're going to kill me, and maybe if we have any kids, them too." She said, "Just think about what you did last night." I pushed my mother down, and she fell about 2 steps. I mean, it was bad. It was stupid, but it was like, you know what? And that cured me. One thing, I never said a bad word to a woman or touched a woman violently. Hug, yeah, funny hugs, whatever. But I never used any abuse as far as a woman was concerned. Ever. And I was married to that same girl for 67 years. And she was more famous than I was.
How's that?
She was an artist, poet, author, you name it. The Historical Society of Grafton, Vermont has dedicated a room to Florence Baker Karpin Memorial Library. That room and all the contributions, they got thousands of dollars in contributions for it, will go to buying books authored by Grafton people. Just that one room, there's her name on it. She did a portrait of the first president, who was a senator from Indiana, a guy named Sam Pettingill. And it's so awesome. People can't believe it. It looks so much like him, and a big pastel portrait of him. She was great. She published 3 or 4 books of poetry, children's books. The biggest one, Viking, published some of her books, and just a little kind of, you know, not a lot of publicity, but she was, and it's, you know, it's I thought, you draw me that, yeah, okay. When I got this hat, she said, "You ought to get some recognition from that hat." She called up the Reformer. She said, "I'm going to send a poem and a picture of this guy's hat." They published it.
This is the woman who once told you, "I'm sorry I married you." This is the woman who one time told you, "I'm sorry I married you." Yeah.
Yeah, we lived
This
together.
is Misha and Jasmine's grandmother.
Jasmine's grandmother, right.
Yeah.
Her picture's here someplace, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lawrence.
I want to ask you one other question. May not be a fair question,
Okay.
and you can tell me if it isn't, and you don't have to answer it, but
Yeah.
at any time or times did you think about the people that might get killed by the bombs you were dropping?
Yeah.
I mean, you
Not at the time, but later on, yes. And I've thought about it a lot. Yeah. And I knew that there were times they'd said to us, you know, bomb this factory. Well, we knew this factory was filled with people. There's no 2 ways about it. It was, you know, midday. We never flew at night. We never flew early in the morning. We flew midday, mostly, our missions. And we knew we were killing people. And the thing of it is, you just have to say, they were killing us. They wanted to kill us. They wanted to kill the British. Look what they did to the look at I always go back to September 1st, 1939. And you know what that date is,
It's the
right?
invasion of Poland.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think if the Germans could do that to practically a defenseless country that was using horses instead of tanks for their military, they're animals.
Yeah.
They really are.
But again, that's the leadership of the country
Yeah, oh,
directing
sure.
its military. It's not the people in the factory.
Yeah. Well,
They
put
might be, you know, like anybody here
Yeah.
working anywhere in Brattleboro.
Right,
So
right.
it's not an easy thing, I know.
No, definitely
Your
not.
best work results in the destruction of a lot of people.
Yeah,
That's just
Right.
the nature of it.
right. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it kind of bothers me. You know, I think about, gee whiz, who knows? You know, whose mother, sister, brother, father, uncle. You know, we wiped out with that mission, but we were sort of detached at the time. We're way up there. We're at 25,000 feet. All right, we're dropping a bomb on this square thing, gray, and you know, and it's got a brook there and the road there. It wasn't personal at all, and you couldn't feel it. I want to tell you something else too about this, and a lot of people don't know this.
Before he goes on, G, mark the time on that comment, will you?
Mhm.
Are you using this one now?
I've got a bunch
Okay.
of stuff going.
You just mark the time.
Every mission was voluntary. When they came in the morning, you could refuse to go.
Really?
Only if you were an officer, well, any rank, you were stripped immediately. You were given kitchen duty to do. You were given latrine duty to do. You were given any dirty thing that had to be done on that airfield. All right? You didn't have to fly. You could it was voluntary every damn mission. All right? So, but you could say later on, you know, I'll fly again. Well, usually, if you were an officer, you wound up as a tail gunner with maybe a couple of sergeant stripes. But you never got your rank back. Except one guy I know who was such a hot pilot, I couldn't believe it, that he quit. So I can't do this anymore. Geez. All right. And he worked in the kitchen. I had him serve him. He served me and all that. And he decided he wanted to fly again. They gave him back they gave him back a second lieutenant rating, and then he went on from there. So now, my last award. A couple of 3 years ago, the French government started to look at what all these Americans did for them. Okay? And so they began asking us for information. I got a letter saying, do you have a list of your missions? Yeah, I do. Well, send it here. I think I went to the French consulate in Boston. And okay, and then you had to have a current driver's license and proof that you were alive, one way or another. Okay. And then about 2 years later, package comes in the mail. Well, the thing it was too big to fit in my mailbox, so they gave it to my daughter Jennifer, who has a business right there, a big shop. And so she brought it in. She said, "You got this package, Dad, from Boston." Oh, I don't know. I don't know or anything. What the heck? She said, "Well, it's addressed to you." And she said, "Maybe I'll look." I said, "It's from the French consulate." It is the Legion of Honor.
Oh my goodness.
The Legion of Honor from France.
Oh my goodness.
And last January, this year, myself, both my daughters, Janice and Jennifer, a good friend of hers, and a nephew of mine, we all met in the French consulate in Boston, and it was awarded to me by the French consulate himself. Yeah. Now the Legion of Honor is only given to non-French people who do something outstanding. And one of the people that got it, believe it or not, was Eleanor Roosevelt. This was an award that was generated initially by Napoleon in 1803. Goes back that far. And I only know of one other Vermonter that's got it.
Who would that be?
He was a tail gunner in a B-17. He's still around someplace. I heard he's pretty bad off. He lives up in Barry or that way, yeah. Only the two of us. That's all I've heard of people in Vermont that ever got that medal.
Yeah. Was there a big hullabaloo about it when you went to Boston? I mean, did the
Well,
press
they
go down?
had a little banquet, yeah. They didn't make a big deal out of it, no. But you know who did? Who was one of the two most outstanding Vermonters? Now.
Outstanding Vermonters now? I don't know, Patrick Leahy.
Patrick Leahy.
Yeah.
He.
Okay.
So American Legion in Brattleboro.
Yeah,
Mrs.
we
Leahy.
had lunch with him, myself and my girlfriend, and him and his wife, and I have a photograph of him shaking my hand, and he's amazed at this medal.
Yeah. Where do you keep that medal? Is it visible in your apartment?
Yeah, I have. There's another story, but now I was going to say.
Well, let me ask you, what will you do with those medals at some point?
I have a collage.
Okay, so they're on
I know what I was
display?
going to tell you. The Vermont legislation has generated a resolution thanking me for my World War II material. It was about that long.
Yeah, yeah. Who initiated that? Do you remember?
Hmm?
Who initiated that?
This lady from Wyndham. What the hell's her name?
State representative or something?
Yeah, she's been in the state.
Wyndham
She's
County.
a representative.
Jeanette White?
No, one of those though. I know Jeanette. Yeah, met her at a. I was one of the strongest promoters. You may not be on my side. Of Sue Minter,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason was I was a selectman in Grafton when Irene hit us. Now, I couldn't get out of my dooryard. The road was gone. I was getting telephone calls all over the place. Jay, what are you going to do about this? This is horrible. You know, we can't do anything. You know. And so I called up the Department of Motor Vehicles. I called up the Agency of Transportation. Never got through to anybody. You know, ring, 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 ring. Or somebody said, sorry, we're not doing any business today, or I'll call back later on. So I called finally the Agency of Transportation, and I said, I want to talk to somebody, or I'm going to come up there and kill somebody.
You're
Just a minute.
Yeah.
So the woman got on, hi, this is Sue. What's your problem? Sue, I don't know what your job is, but let me tell you what mine is. All right? I have to get people out of their homes. I have to get medicines in here. I have to get all kinds of supplies. This is a town. We need food. You know, the restaurant can't work. We need help. What do you want? I said, well, give me 6 yards here and 7 yards there and 5 yards out there. Within hours, trucks came out of Dummerston and did it.
No kidding.
Within hours.
Wow.
And several times after that, I had problems with the feds and everybody that was in on this thing, you know. And she always came to my rescue every damn time.
You should have made a campaign
I
ad
did.
for her. Or you
Oh,
did.
I did. I was her first supporter. When she came to to the cotton mill, she came to the Legion, she came to every place she
Came to
came.
the high school.
I was there.
Oh, you were there that day.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Every place she came, I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finally she was giving me recognition. she would start a speech. She said, first of all, I want to thank my friend Jay Karpin, a veteran of World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, so that's pretty well some
Yeah.
some in substance.
You're
Yeah.
quite a guy.
Well, I don't know. But let me tell you what, I came back, okay? I arrived on Christmas Eve of '44, and I was one of the first guys they flew back. Most of them were coming back on troop ships. I got a flight out of Scotland, and that was arranged by Doolittle too. I don't know how it happened. I got orders to report to the airport in Scotland.
You and others, or
Huh?
you and others, or just you?
There were about 8 of us on that plane. It was
Okay.
the first DC-4, the 4-engine Douglas DC-4.
Was it Prestwick?
Yes, Prestwick. Yes. Prestwick. I flew out of Prestwick directly to LaGuardia.
Oh, LaGuardia.
Yeah, directly to LaGuardia. And of course, I was living, I came from Hicksville, New York, Long Island. So that would be a great place to come back home.
Yeah.
And landed on Christmas Eve.
Well, you know, the Battle of the Bulge was going on there.
Yeah, yeah.
That started on the 16th.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that's right. You're good.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
they didn't know what to do with me. I got orders to report to Atlantic City. The heck's down there, you know?
Yeah.
Hotels.
yeah. Women!
Women, yeah. So I reported down there. You don't know, we can't send you back to combat right away, or put you in a combat group, and we'll have to think about what we're going to do. And so this was January 23rd of 45. On January 27th of 45, my brother had enlisted in the Coast Guard. So they were going to put on a huge party for him. My brother was an introvert, and for him to actually volunteer to do anything was amazing. He was.
So you jumped forward a year. You said December of 45?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, it was 45. I'm thinking something
44.
else. Yeah.
You mean?
I came back at 44.
Right.
And then by January, they had called me down on Atlantic City.
It's January 45.
Right. They
And
didn't know
the
what to
war
do with
in
me.
Europe ends in May 45.
Yeah. Right.
And then in Japan, September
September.
45. Yeah, so I thought you were saying December of 45, which would...
No. Yeah, I came back December of 44.
Right.
Yeah.
During the
Right.
Battle of the Bulge.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Right. And the point of the story is that I didn't want to go to this party. I was really in bad shape. Been home about a month.
Psychologically, bad shape?
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't want any contact with people. Just wanted to be left alone, you know. And so they told me to go to this party. And I went, and there was a girl named Florence Baker who lived about 20 miles away from this hotel where my brother's being entertained. And her boyfriend had gotten blown up the week before in Europe. And the guy she was going to marry. And her brother-in-law had been in the Merchant Marine out in the Pacific and had been sunk and all kinds of problems. And he came back, and he and her sister were going to go to the same hotel where we were putting on the party for my brother. And they asked Florence to come along, and she said, "No, I can't do that. I'm just so sick." She said, "I was so upset." And finally, her mother grabbed her and said, "Florence, go. You might meet a handsome lieutenant." And 69 years later, she died.
Yeah, isn't that something?
But boy, does she have rules and regulations. Number one, or I'll tell you another story. I was aligned to go fly the first P-80. My commanding officer, Butch Helen, found out that I was going to go over. I trained the B-29 bombardiers, and I was going to go over with that. Well, they didn't call it a group in those days. It was part of the 20th Air Force, some kind of scouting units or some damn thing. He found out because he had come back And now he'd been promoted from a full colonel to a 1-star. And he was in charge of all of Southwest USA training. And when he discovered I was going to go back into combat, he vetoed it. And he said, listen to this kid. There you go. Listen to this kid. You got a full rating as a bombardier. You got a full rating as a navigator. You got a full rating as an aerial gunner. You got a full rating as a radar operator from the Pathfinder. I'm going to send you to pilot school. You will be a squadron commander by the time you're 22 years old.
Wow.
He said, I'll do that for you.
Wow.
Okay? So he did.
Wow.
I started my pilot training
Oh, sorry, gee.
down in Arcadia, Florida. And I don't know how it was, but I was shipped out before I was done with pilot training to California. We're flying the Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star, first American jet. All right? And I was supposed to fly number 4. And I guess that was to finish my pilot training. Flying a jet was not like flying a precipitating engine where you had mixture and temperature and all this to worry about. Jet, you pushed it, and that's what, and that went. So it was a lot easier to control, actually. But the plane I was supposed to fly, I was superseded by a major who got killed. I didn't fly that plane. Somehow or other, and I don't know how, Florence heard about this, and she called me up. And she said, I'm not going to marry you. What do you mean? You got my engagement ring? She said, I'm not going to marry you. I'm going to want to be a widow at 21. And you're going to get killed, one of those things. So I backed out of pilot training. I went back into reciprocating engines. At that point, they were deciding pretty much that they were trying to unload people. So they gave me a separation of service, not a discharge, a separation of service. After I was out a while, I decided I was going to college at Columbia, taking some courses. I wanted to become a mechanical engineer. And Republic Aviation put a big ad in because the Korean War was starting. And they were building the F-84. And they were looking for guys to train. So I got into machinist course. And then I got into jig builders. And I kept working my way up and working my way up. And they sent me to Korea. Because they even, now it's the Air Force. So they sent me a piece of paper, you're now in the Air Force.
Still.
Yeah. Not the Army Air Corps now, but you're in the Air Force. And so they were having a lot of problems with some of these planes. And that even went into Vietnam because I was still there. And we were building the F-105, the Thunder
Chief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember what year that was when you went to Vietnam?
Excuse me?
What year you went to Vietnam? More or less, or was the war underway?
Yeah,
Was it after
and they were
American-
flying these airplanes and they was having so much trouble closing the bomb bay doors. Two things I worked on that were real critical. One was in-flight refueling. I was the guy who built all the master equipment for them to manufacture parts for in-flight refueling. And this was on the F-84, the Thunder jet. My crew and I got pretty far up in that company, and then we came to visit in Vermont. And we wound up in Grafton for lunch. Had lunch at the tavern. I don't know if you've been up there, but my wife, we walked out in the yard there, beautiful sunny day, and she said, "Hey Jay, you're real rich. Buy me a vacation place here." I said, "Yeah, it might be a nice place. Nice. I've heard some nice things about Vermont. Yeah." Okay, so we tried. Doesn't work. So there was one real estate agent, Earl Wright. He said, You looked at our clothes, you looked at our cars. You know, don't think you'd like anything in this town right now. I said, oh, okay, so they're all nice on the front, but they're rotten on the back. I said, okay.
At least he was honest.
About a month later, he sends me this flyer. It's not part of the interview, but it was amazing. It was a brick colonial built in 1820 with 8 rooms, 7 working fireplaces, dairy barn with 28 metal stanchions, new silo, new this, new that, a pond, a brook, and 50 acres. And I looked at it and I laughed. That must be a mistake. $17,500.
Oh, God. Oh,
I
God.
showed it to my wife. What do you think? Wow, wow. Let's go look at it. So we drove. This was like on a Friday, and we drove up over the weekend. He showed it to us. I went back home, went to my bank, got a certified check, sent him the certified check, and walked into Republic 2 days later and quit. Now, I'm on the shift, you know. I come home, it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. I should have been at work. Walk in the door, wife said, what's the matter, are you sick? I said, no, I quit, we're moving to Vermont. She keeled right over. She said, you're joking me, aren't you? I said, no, I quit. I said, what are you going to do in Vermont? I said, a beautiful farm with 28 stanchions in the barn. I'm going to farm. I'm going to be a dairy farmer. What's the matter with you anyway? She said, you're nuts, Jay. You know, you're out of your mind. I'm not going up there. I've got 2 kids I have to think about. Well, you'll starve up there. You'll freeze. I hear it's cold. She went on and on and on. You know, all the reasons she didn't want to go. When her mother heard, you bought that place in Vermont? And she looked at Florence, what do you think? I'm not going with him. She said, oh, yes, you are.
So here you are.
I loved her mother. She was so funny.
What's at that place now? If we were to drive up there, that place.
The price?
No.
It's for sale now.
It is for sale?
Yeah, 1.2 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
1.2 million.
When did you sell it?
Huh?
When did you sell it?
When did I?
Sell it. You still own it?
Oh, no. We sold it. I was offered such a good job. I was working, I'll explain you what happened to her. My neighbor down the road was a good farmer, and he said, Jay, you're not a farmer. Now, don't even think about it. You don't have the equipment. You don't have tractors. You don't have balers. You don't have this. And he said, on top of that, let me see your hands. You're not a farmer.
Yeah.
And so he said, I want, and this was world shattering, and I can prove it to you. He said, go over to Springfield. There's one shop over there that's looking for a lot of people called Bryant Computer Products. They're looking for machinists and engineers and everything. Just go over there, okay? Okay, I'll try it.
It was either that one or Jones and Lamson.
It was Bryant.
Those were your 2
Bryant.
choices in Springfield.
Yeah. Well, there was Lovejoy, and there was Fellows.
Okay.
Yeah, at the time. In fact, I did work for Fellows. So I went into Bryant Computer Products, and they said, what do you know about metal cutting? Everything. What do you want to know about metal cutting? I'll tell you.
All right.
I said, we've done everything from common all the way up to all the exotics. I said, not a machine at all. Okay, we're going to put you on a project called computer memory drums. All right? We're building cylindrical drums coated on the outside with magnetic coating for recording now. They're getting rid of these punch cards and all that. We're recording on the outside of these drums. Okay, I looked at it. I had some changes in the metals that will make it easier to manufacture and all that. One Friday, a bunch of Army guys come in. They said, we've got a demand for a major memory, and we want you guys to do it. Of course, to look at it and do it. Well, let's say we could do, on a memory drum, we could do 1 million bits. They were looking for 100 million bits. I said, we can't do that. We can't build a drum and hold those. We were holding tolerances of plus or minus 50 millionths of an inch. 50 millionths. You split a human in half 4 times. I said, I can't build a drum that big. It'll be the size of a Fruhoff truck. I can't build a drum and hold those tolerances. The guys are nuts. Oh. Well, we'll try Europe because we hear they're into it. So my boss taps me on the shoulder. He says, Jay, you like working here?
We'll figure it out.
He says, meet me tomorrow. There's a guy named Dick Stover. He said, meet me tomorrow at the diner in town, and we're going to do a little brain, whatever he called it. Okay. So we're sitting in the diner, sipping coffee and eating sugary donuts. And the waitress comes over and says, any of you guys got a quarter? I want to put it in the jukebox. And I go, I got 2 of them, but I'm not going to give them to you. I want to make the selection.
Oh, yeah.
So Dick says, yeah, I want to make one too. So we both go up and we walk to the jukebox. And I put the quarter in, whatever it was, blue skies,
From now on.
and then bang! Why can't we coat this? Why can't we coat this? So we thought about it. We said, okay, to meet that requirement, we need a horizontal spindle. We drew it all out on napkins and everything. And say 8 discs coated on both sides with the magnetic heads powered by a hydraulic system, 50 horsepower hydraulics. This was a monster. It was the first disc memory, and I can prove it. I still have the last brochure that Brian produced to sell it. We were well on the way. We were shrinking. The whole thing was pulse capacity, pulse pulsing. How many pulses can you get to the inch? Now it's billions. Then it was 100. Then it was 150, 175, you know. As more pulses, the disc shrank. We kept making them smaller, smaller, smaller. We got down to about that. And they made a whole bunch of them from Monroe machines.